Right, good evening everyone. Thanks for coming out this evening for tonight's meeting of Oswestry Town Council. So item 1 is public participation, so any members of the public can speak, make a comment or ask a question of the council. Evening Duncan, would you like to speak first?
Good evening, members. If you go back 6 or 7 years, Oswestry Food and Drink Festival included cooking demonstrations, events where people could meet producers. There was a map with trails paid for by advertising the events. All of this done by the organisers liaising and working with local businesses. Now the food festival is only a market, with most of the stalls coming from outside of Oswestry. What do council officers do to proactively engage with local food and drink outlets and producers to get them involved in the festival and make it more than just an enlarged market?
Is there any response that we can make there?
Obviously, the Food and Drink Festival has been a success in Oswestry over many years. We do liaise with local businesses with the bid, and we did this year trying to organise a cooking demonstration. So, we are actively trying to encourage and support the food festival. We do also work with the previous organiser over the years as well, Mr. Wayne, and use his skills as well. Notwithstanding there are challenges in terms of the pinch point of funding and the price that people are willing to pay. But we're happy to work with anybody to try and make this event a success. I'm happy to take on board the ideas and suggestions that Duncan brought forward and see if we can work with the bid in particular. Members have got a difficult decision when it comes to budgeting in the year, because this is a cost-neutral event and we find it very difficult to deliver that. But obviously happy to work with local businesses, happy particularly with the bid. We're happy to take any advices and suggestions and take it forward.
Thank you. And thank you, Duncan, for speaking this evening. Does anyone else wish to speak in public session? Thank you, sir. That's it. Perfect.
Hi, I think you all know me by now, Chris Woods. You've probably seen some proposals from me a while back. One was to accept the offer of the Wilfred Owen violins. I have been up to Edinburgh only last week and spoken to Stephen, and they're ready to come down at any point. I just need to probably liaise with Aaron about a place to store them for the time being until we can have a formal event to accept them. The last time I spoke was also to talk about the possibility of an annual Wilfred Owen Festival, which I think you all embraced and thought was a reasonable idea, not only from a logistical support point of view, but also from a financial point of view. So I put a proposal forward to look at the possibility of an annual budget. I know budgets are strapped and budgets are difficult. I would work to support a budget from the council by trying to get grants and sponsorship and donations as happened at the last festival. So I think you've all seen the proposal put forward. It's not set in stone, it's not meant to be set in stone. It's basically a figure that gives us an opportunity to then look at what we can deliver as part of that festival. Because without a budget we can't really go away and look at bringing in drama, look at bringing in musicians, look at bringing in or looking at venues, costs, until we know that there is a financial commitment from the council. So I hope that sort of says what I wanted to say, and you have a copy of the proposal in front of you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? No. Thank you. I'll move on then to item 2A, which is apologies for absence.
Apologies from absence from Councillor Moore. Check with Sandra. Councillor Cassin. Councillor Wadey. Is that it? Councillor Jones as well.
Thank you. I'll move we accept. All in favour? Thank you. And disclosure of councillors' interests in any matters in relation to the Code of Conduct. Looking around the room, Councillor Upton.
This isn't a declaration, this is just for the purposes of openness and transparency regarding the item tonight about the town charities, that I am one of the town council's nominated representatives, and that any decision I make will be of no influence or no connection whatsoever other than in my capacity as a councillor rather than as a member of the charities.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Price.
Yeah, for the 401 bus service. I'm a bus driver.
Okay, so you'll step outside at that point. Okay, John, thank you. Okay, item 3, oh, no more there, no. Item 3, the minutes, to approve the attached minutes from the meeting held on the 12th of June 2024, copy attached. Councillor Upton,
Move we adopt.
thank you. That's seconded there. All in favour? Thank you. Any against? Abstentions? No. Oh, one abstention. Thank you. Item 4, to adopt the attached minutes from a meeting of the Planning Committee held on the 22nd of May. Councillor Upton.
Move we adopt.
Thank you. Councillor Rose.
I was just going to highlight the fact that in that meeting they're directly already trying to recruit some new police for the town centre, and that's sort of very welcome news, and they're suggesting that they might be there by September, so I'm sure everyone will be very pleased to hear that.
Oh, right. That's the next item, sorry. we're just on the planning committee, but not the police.
Police, sorry.
Yeah, no problem, no problem.
Just
I'll
ignore
come
planning.
back to you. Yeah. Anyone have any comments to make on the planning committee minutes? Oh, it's been moved that we adopt. I'll second that. All in favour? Thank you. So now item 5 is the subcommittees and working groups. So we've got the Police Partnership Panel held on the 3rd of June, the Youth Services Partnership Panel held on the 17th of June, and the Market Mural Working Group from the 27th of June. As Councillor Rose has spoken and highlighted the additional police officers being recruited for the Oswestry team, obviously I think that's to be welcomed. Councillor Upton.
Unless anyone's got any other comments, move we adopt en bloc.
Yeah, okay. Oh, sorry. It goes on, doesn't it? We've got the Audit, Procurement and Performance Panel from the 27th of June and the Climate Change Partnership Panel from the 3rd of April.
Just in terms of, we've got the decision about the market mural to make as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The minutes from the Market Mural Working Group detail the recommendation for the mural design and artist. Display of design. Yep. So that has now, the results are in. So are we to make the decision to
Yeah, so there's a
go ahead?
Yeah, sorry, distracted a little bit. So you have got a clear recommendation there from the Market Mural Group following the public vote, and it was pleasing to see how many people had engaged with that process. So really pleased by that. A clear recommendation, which is design number 4, which you can see on the board there. Can everybody see it past my head? And if you're happy to accept that, we'll inform the artist tomorrow so we can progress it as soon as practically possible.
Okay. Does anyone wish to comment on the mural design? Councillor Rose.
Just that it was a clear winner, wasn't it? It was a load more people voted for that one, so it wasn't no reason to go against it, really. I think the only pity was that the hills don't have the hill fort. Sorry.
It was a popular choice, wasn't it? I think it won by a landslide, if I may make so bold. Did I see another hand? No. Okay. Okay. So on that recommendation, then to proceed with design style 4 and the winning artist there. I'll propose that from the chair. Is there a seconder in the house? Yep, Councillor Rose, thank you. All in favour? Wonderful, that's unanimous. Oh, okay. Thank you, Councillor Upton. One abstention. So, the rest of the minutes then. It's been moved to adopt en bloc. Happy to second that. All in favour? Many thanks. Okay, item 6 is to answer any questions in accordance with the standing orders.
No questions, please.
No questions. And item 7, Shropshire Council updates. I've not prepared anything myself. I don't know if my colleagues from Shropshire Council have. Councillor Kerr.
I'll be quick, honest. There's a council meeting next Thursday, and there's a cabinet meeting on Wednesday. You've probably seen the papers for the cabinet meeting include proposals regarding green waste and the civic amenity sites. If you've not seen it, the proposal for the civic amenity sites is not to close any in the county, but to have one day of closure at each site, either a Wednesday or a Thursday, and to introduce a system of permits. So you wouldn't be able to turn up and use the civic amenity site. You'd have to book your slot via permit online. I would be raising concerns over that because I'm not sure about the practicalities and workabilities of that. It almost means if you haven't got online access, you can't use the tip at all. And from experience and where other places have tried this, I have concerns about that. The proposals on green waste are for a £56 a year charge for green waste, otherwise you will not get your green waste collected. My own view of this, I mean, 3 years ago, I put forward to Shropshire Council that they actually adopted a formal strategy called a waste minimisation strategy to look at these issues and to encourage people and give them help to compost and give them help for other, so we can make a managed transition. But they rejected that, and they flatly refused to have that, and they've ended up in a situation where decisions have been made. They agreed, actually, bizarrely, earlier this year that they would have that, having said they wouldn't, but they haven't got that. They haven't got the strategy, but they're already making decisions. So by the time they have the strategy, it will be, cart before the horse, isn't it? One way round. And that's very unfortunate, and I think we need to stand up for residents and be very concerned about potential increase in fly tipping, because what will happen is people will try to cram it in their existing bin, and when they can't cram it in their existing bin, it's very tempting to leave it beside their bin, and that just adds to more problems on the street. So a really unfortunate outcome from this, and all I would do, I'll go along to the cabinet meeting on your behalf, and if you feel as I feel, and I'd be interested to know that general feel that we are very concerned about these proposals, I'll advocate that and make the cabinet aware of that. The other thing on for the council side is that the financial situation isn't getting any better. It seems to be indeed getting worse. We are having an update at the council meeting, but goodness me, they are talking on worst case scenario, it has to be said, but on worst case scenario about having a couple £100,000 left in balances at the end of the year. Well, when you consider we've got £1.5 million in balances, and we're a potsy little town council, and they're Shropshire Council with a £200 million turnover. I think, well, by financial terms is what I mean. The size of our turnover compared to the size of Shropshire Councils would necessitate that they should have 50 times or so our level of balances, but they are in grave danger. So that may result, I'm afraid, in what's called a 114 notice, which if you haven't heard about that, is where the Director of Finance says things have got so bad, I have to stop any discretionary expenditure. A number of councils have done this, I know Birmingham being one. The problem of that comes that it can make the matter worse. If you take something like children's services, where a lot of the costs are coming in from, to actually bring a child into care as a statutory service, that's not affected, but provide early help that stops that family deteriorating to a place where the child needs to come into care is a discretionary service. So there's a real danger that you stop doing the very proactive things that actually keep families together and keep costs down. So it's not something to be welcomed at all to get into a situation where 114 notice is served. But I'm not saying it is, but that we must be getting closer to that outcome, unfortunately.
Thank you. The clerk did want to come in at this point.
Yeah, just briefly, members will be aware I'm involved in various discussions with Shropshire Council about various projects. One of these being the financial situation and what parish and town councils can do to support them, and that is very much the line that they're taking. Now, because of the election, there was a delayed survey, so there's a survey due to be sent out to town and parish councils, and it's been delayed. I'm a little bit concerned that we sent out over the summer recess when we won't have an opportunity to meet. If that's the case, it'll be quite difficult for us then to pull together a response. So what I'm suggesting is that you ask the policy group to undertake this task on your behalf if you need to. So if the deadlines from on the survey are such that you need an immediate response, but obviously that's for members to determine.
Okay, thanks. We'll consider that in just a moment then. Councillor Coburn I had next, and then Councillor Upton.
Yes, I second Councillor Kerr's concern over the booking system, which seems to me a very short-sighted idea, and the concern over the increase in fly tipping. But shutting for a day a week seems a sensible way of cutting some money. But in the council's press release, they talk about how they're hoping to save money by processing less waste. Now, if they're hoping to do that, the waste has got to go somewhere. So if they're saying they're going to process less waste, it's almost inevitable that that's going to be an increase in fly tipping. And that's obviously something of great concern to people around here.
Thank you. Councillor Upton?
So it appears Councillor Kerr's already got a seconder, but I would also like to use this opportunity to echo everything he said. This will indeed cause a severe period of uncertainty for people in Oswestry, because it will not just see an increase in fly tipping, but I've already heard people discussing the possibility of venturing over the border into neighbouring authorities, household recycling centres where they don't ask questions. Now, we're a town council, we're not Shropshire Council, but that would cause a severe damage to civic relationships we have with neighbouring councils. And okay, we're a town council, we're not Shropshire Council, but if we don't stand up and say no to it, we are complicit in it as an authority. And what I find interesting is also that Shropshire Council are considering this, but they've absolutely said nothing about the future of whether or not they're going to go ahead with this North West Relief Road.
Thank you. Councillor Maguire wanted to speak as well.
A lot of what I wanted to say has been said by other members, so I just want to echo what other members have said. But I would also ask that the councillors perhaps that are in the room, the Shropshire councillors that are in the room at the moment, when it's brought up for discussion, can it be also asked that it may be on a 3-month rolling discussion, so that if the fly tipping does increase, then it can be highlighted and brought forward, because surely the cost saving exercise that they're putting forward at the minute would be outweighed by the cost of clearing up all the fly tipping that it's potentially going to cause. But as I think has already been said, if people don't want to say that £56 a year because they can opt out of it, they're just going to end up putting it in their normal household bin, which is going to end up more. Surely it will cost more in the long run, because you're going to need more area for dumping the waste when it gets to the tip, if you like, wherever it's, you know, like in Ellesmere, for instance. So it's going to cost more money for a bigger area, because it's going to get filled up quicker because it's got green waste in it. So yeah, all I'd ask is Shropshire councillors perhaps bring that recommendation forward.
Thanks. I'm aware that this has become a debate, which actually it's supposed to be Shropshire Council updates from the Shropshire councillors. So apologies, members. I'd better draw a close bit. But Councillor Price, you are a Shropshire councillor, so I'd better allow you to speak.
Well, this is a hot topic, but I don't think Shropshire Council's the only council in the country. I think when it comes to tipping and crossing borders, quite regularly, it's done anyway. We must remind ourselves as well, when we post a letter to Shropshire, if we're dumping 1 million tonnes a week, it's still 1 million tonnes a week, irrespective 7 days, 6 days, 5 days, or 1 day a week. But I do think that we should sympathise also with the fact is that the budgets of Shropshire and the budgets of the town council, the commitments and statutory commitments of Shropshire Council are furtherly different from that of the town council. So can we just remind ourselves when we're going off on that? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So it was, we just have a request from Aaron that if the survey needs a response before our next meeting, that the policy group can be called together to hold a meeting to determine that response. So I'm happy to move that. Is there a seconder for that proposal? Thank you, Councillor Coburn. If that's fairly straightforward, all in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? No, thank you. Okay, moving on to item 8 then, policies. We have, first of all, 8A is the IT policy. We have achieved the Cyber Essentials Standard, a scheme which helps organisations protect themselves from common cyber threats. So thanks and congratulations to the team. I think that's a really good thing to be able to put in place. It's obviously complacency can't be allowed to creep in, but I think yeah, a big well done and a pat on the back is due. Do you have anything you need to tell us on that, Aaron?
No, it's just a case of, as part of that process, we need to review our IT policies. The standard dictates what they should be, but I'm grateful for the work of the Audit, Procurement and Performance Panel, who actually read through those documents, despite their length, and been fairly dull, and have resolved to recommend these to Council.
Brilliant. Okay, so on that one then, we need to adopt the new policy, is that correct?
Yes, please.
The amended policy. So I'll propose that. Is there a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Rose. All in favour? Thank you. Any against? Abstentions? No. 8B then, the NALC model financial regulations for local councils. Yes. Okay, thanks, Aaron.
Yeah, and again, thank you. The Audit, Performance and Procurement Panel had a review of these when they last met. I think the key issues are highlighted in red in the document, but the big change is detailed on your agenda. This is an introduction or application of legislation which has been in place for a while, but it's now applicable to town and parish councils. So members will be asked. That's the law, and you need to be mindful of that when it comes to voting on the budget. What I would say is that the model regulations are written for the average council and the average parish council, which is much smaller than OTC. So clearly we're bigger and busier and have more financial transactions at most organisations. So we've had to adjust them accordingly so we can actually carry out our business in a timely and effective manner. Bits in bolder law can't be changed. The rest is down to the parish councils. So we had a good discussion at the Audit and Performance Group. Happy to answer any questions if anybody's got any.
Does anybody need anything clarifying there? Councillor Upton.
Move we adopt.
Move we adopt. Okay, yeah, and it's just highlighted that councillors will have to sort of regulate themselves on this enforcement of the Section 106 that we'd have to disclose and not vote on the budget or precept if we are 2 months or more in arrears with our own council tax.
Yeah, I think that I am going to seek for clarification on this because it does talk about unpaid, but there are various reasons why somebody might be in arrears. So it is important that members aren't penalised for inefficiencies elsewhere in the system. So with your approval, I will take that feedback back to NALC and just explain that perhaps they do need to provide better clarification.
Yeah, everyone happy with that? Okay, so on that one then, do we adopt those the new regulations? I'll propose. Is there a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Davis. All in favour? Thank you. Any against or abstentions? No. 8C, archive policies. So those are, we've got the archive policies at Appendix C and the interim digital preservation policy, Appendix D. Anything to say on these?
Yeah, very little change from previous policies. We're going through the archive accreditation process as we speak. This council is one of the smallest in the country, or our archives is one of the smallest in the country to be accredited. We're keen to keep that accreditation. Really pleased with the work of the archives is generating cultural and art activity in the town. So it's delivering really good work. These are just two fairly standard policies, I have to be honest, but obviously I need to bring them to you for approval.
Okay. Any comments, questions or queries on that? No? I'll move we proceed with that. Those again then. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Maguire. All in favour? Thank you. Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you. Item 9 then, consultation on proposed electric vehicle charging points on Liverpool Road, Oswestry. So there's been maps and details provided. So it's part of the bay on one side of the road the current parking that runs alongside the allotments on the sort of outside edge, as it were, not for the whole bay, but for 47.8 metres, and then there'd be a short section at the end which would still be unrestricted. So, Councillor Moore. No. James. Owen. Sorry.
No problem. I think the venture of increasing the number of charging points is obviously something that should be applauded. It's something that obviously helps the environment and is very important. But I think we should sort of look forwards and try and promote higher capacity charges, lower price charges, rather than just continually pumping out more of the same that not many people still use, because there's more competitive options on the market. For example, the Lloyd Street Park charges right next to them. You have to pay 50 pence to charge a unit, and that only gives you 7 kilowatts of power each time. You go to Mile End, you get 55 pence per kilowatt, and it charges you 50 kilowatts. So it's much faster. It's making people want to go out of the town to charge rather than bringing people in. And we should try and promote chargers which want to bring people into the town. Obviously, it would also, if you're higher capacity, people would more likely to pop in for a shorter amount of time. There's higher turnover of more people rather than the same people just park there constantly. I'd like to bring up the fact that if you have been past Lloyd Street recently, there's many chargers still already there. People who are parked there either can't charge because they're ice, they can't physically charge, the chargers are broken, or they're just electric cars that aren't charging. There's no enforcement there already, and considering this is 50 metres away, how's the enforcement going to change over that distance? Like, are they going to increase the enforcement as part of this? Otherwise, what's the point? Like, we should at least try and have the 12 that we've already got just next by up to full capacity before pumping out new ones and spending more money on that. So I'd propose that we should actually object to this proposal until there's advice sought as to whether it's possible that we could increase the capacity of these chargers, and which would then make it worth the price to lose the unrestricted bays, because this is in a residential area. People are going to want to park there and suddenly they can't. We should at least make it more worthwhile to more people that they're losing these bays, and an idea of the enforcement and maintenance of the existing chargers being brought forward before them proposing a new one.
Okay, thank you very much. So there is a proposal there from Councillor Owen. Is there a seconder? Councillor Upton, thank you. Would you like to speak?
Yeah, I'm going to second Councillor Owen's proposal that we rejected for a couple of reasons. Firstly, if we do go with this proposal, it could be considered an example of what the public face in a cost of living crisis. There's the threat of having to pay for refuse. Now they're going to be paying over the odds for charging their vehicles using a facility where they could go elsewhere and it'd be much cheaper. Also, the proposed area for these spaces would be within the exclusion zone during term time. So for a couple of hours a day, people can't use the bays. Otherwise, they'll get fined unless they've got a permit. And also, a lot of people that use our allotments use those parking spaces. What if they don't have EVs? Where are they going to park? If they're going to park on the housing estate, or they're going to park on Gattaca, they're going to have to walk all the way further to use our facilities. Now, that doesn't seem right to me.
Thank you very much. Councillor Maguire.
Councillor Upton has just clarified something I was just about to say, that it is going to be in a restricted area when the the enforcement area comes in for the school. So it doesn't seem justified to be there. Now, obviously, a lot of us in this room are on social media, and we will have already seen a lot of people commenting on it, and I should imagine that there'll be comments on the portal as well, to suggest that it's already a difficult area to park in at the best of times, let alone if they have extra cars coming in and out of the areas to be able to park. One thing I would pick up on Councillor Owen's comments was there is a lot of there isn't three-phase electric in a lot of areas in Oswestry currently at the moment, but in Oswestry East they are currently rolling out three-phase power lines at the moment to be able to cope with the infrastructure going forward for solar panels on roofs, air source heat pumps in cars and in houses and such like. So at the moment it isn't capable of pulling that sort of current that it would require as it does on the likes of Mile End. So that for the short time, it's not possible. Long term, if they're unveiling it everywhere, then it would be possible. But I am in agreement that I think we should object to it for the very reasons that the councillors have already said.
Thank you very much. Councillor Price and then Councillor Kerr.
Right, yeah, I sort of like this actually. Councillor Owen, you seem to have brought up a good point that I've been thinking about, and probably a few of us, that we look at perfecting what we've got before we swamp it with out-of-date equipment, basically. But I was just going to mention what Councillor Les Maguire has just said, what's happening with the three-phase. I think basically we say, no, we look at what we've got, we get it right, and then carry on.
Thank you. Yeah, do seem to be, there's a lot of agreement around this, but Councillor Kerr?
Probably in the agreement. I mean, this is difficult. We are trying to make a transition to an economy which uses far less carbon fuels. For people who live in terraced houses, they haven't got the option of charging from their homes. If we're going to be successful in this, and all parties have said we're going to be successful moving to electric cars, we're going to have to increase facilities. Inevitably, when you're trying to find a place to charge vehicles in terraced houses, there are going to be existing cars parking there. Inevitably, there isn't a perfect solution to it. We'd all love, I mean, 50 pence I've got an electric car, I paid 80 pence for fast chargers elsewhere, you know, at service stations on the motorways, you can pay a lot more than that. So, I mean, what the charges are is almost then the subject of, you know, a further debate, isn't it? But we can only get, as it's said, the existing power network supplies only enables us to put chargers of this capacity in at the moment. If you drop Oswestry, you're not proposing an alternative site, so all the other schemes Shropshire will be provided in the county. You'll just leave Oswestry unprovided for and are less able to meet the future. Now, you can always say on any site, there's always problems. It's a bit like planning. Always put it. If you're going to say that, well, find somewhere else where you do think is a good site. Don't just object to the site, because you can't just object to the future. And the future is we'll be using electric vehicles. We have to find charging points in residential areas, and this is one.
Your mic's gone off. Your mic's gone off, sorry, Duncan.
The issue about whether it's part of the restriction, you're charging, the car's parked there, isn't it, for the time it's charging, so it doesn't matter whether it's parked there for the 2 hours that the road is closed or not, because it's not being driven, it's parked there for that time while it's charging, so that's pretty irrelevant to this consideration. In fact, it might be an issue that reduces use in that area anyway, so it makes it more suitable. So I'll be voting against the proposal. I believe in trying to help people adapt to a new future, and this is probably one of the most important challenges we have, and we do not want to be turning our back on it.
Thank you. I noticed your hand up earlier, Councillor Rose. And then
No, I agree with Councillor Owen on this, but I do think it's ridiculous that they've come up with a spot that's right next to the Lloyd Street. We've already got them in Lloyd Street. We're already trying to sort those out, so it's just far too near, and there's the whole of Oswestry. I know they tried in Edward Street before, and that the local residents objected to that, which they're going to in any... But it's because it's something to do with the way they've got money to do this, that it's not economical for them to just put a couple in. Because I think if they just put one in Edward Street or two in Edward Street, but they wanted to put something like 8 in Edward Street, so it looks like the same thing here. If you could have put one at one end, and that people could use that locally, it wouldn't be so bad. It's just because they're trying to take the whole lot, and they're right next to the other ones because they've seen a nice lay-by, haven't they, to put it in. But yeah.
thank you. Councillor Radford.
Thank you. I think in response to Councillor Kerr's comments about stopping the future, I think that would assume that the current usage for our electric charging points in Oswestry are full and are being used all the time. which isn't simply the truth. If you go into Central Car Park, there's often spaces there. There's nobody charging right this minute outside in our parkings on the top market here. So actually, we still have capacity. We still have plenty of capacity. And Lloyd Street to the back of the market here really isn't very far. So adding more kind of defeats the object. Actually, we just need to get the ones being used that we've already got, and then potentially look at better technology when it comes.
Thank you. Councillor Maguire.
I just want to come back on what Councillor Kerr has just said about another option to put them. There's a big car park opposite. Is that owned by Shropshire Council? I'm not sure. Why are they not approaching Shropshire Council and taking these cars off the road and perhaps relieving some of the stresses and pressures on the road for residents? Why are they not approaching Shropshire Council and asking Shropshire Council if they can use that car park, which is not very well used anyway, let's be fair. They could put lots of charging points in there off the road from the use.
These are being installed by Shropshire Council. So
Well, then why are the Shropshire Council then not putting them on that land then? No. We got Liverpool Road, you go down Liverpool Road on the right hand, if you're coming from Oak Street, on the right hand side, there's that little triangular or ish.
That's where they're already there. They've already got them there.
they've got some there.
Yeah, that's why this is so near.
Okay, yeah. Right, okay, so we've got a proposal for comments to be made on this consultation. So I'll move to the vote because I think everyone's had their say. Unless you'd like to sum up. Okay. All in favour of Councillor Owen's comments?
Which are beyond comments, there is an objection within that motion.
An objection with comments. All in favour? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 for. Any against? 1. Any abstentions? 2. Okay. That's carried then. We will object formally on the consultation for the reasons stated. Thank you. And item 10, the appointment to Oswestry Town Charities. Councillor Davis has expressed an interest, and so without further ado, let's make sure he gets approved. No, thanks, Frank. Thanks for stepping forward and doing this. So I'll propose that we vote in favour of Councillor Davis. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Price. All in favour? Any against? 1 against. Thank you. That is carried. Item 11. Congratulations. I hope you enjoy that. Item 11 is the car boot sale requests. Sir Latton and Gabowen Parish Council have requested that they can have a car boot sale on Saturday the 27th of July, 18th of August, 22nd of September, oh sorry, these are Sundays now, and Sunday the 20th of October. Because they fall within a certain distance of Oswestry, we have the power to grant or deny. Would anyone like to speak? Councillor Coburn. Move we approve. Councillor Upton.
I second that, but can I also make a request that we look into this old bylaw we've got to see whether we can actually just devolve this to the other parish councils? Because does it seem right that they have to come to us when we're actually equal partners in this? I know it's an old law, but still.
Well, law's a law.
So, and it also comes down to protecting your market rights, because if you start having markets opening up everywhere, then it challenges your ability to deliver them. So that's why the law's in place. You can seek to not have a charter, but I think I would imagine that would be a fairly controversial decision and discussion for the town.
I'm not denying it. I'm just asking: is there the ability to devolve it? That's all.
Not sure. I don't think so.
No, it has to.
We have to make this decision. They have to request, and we have to decide. And I think that is it's been devolved to us to do that. So they can't make that decision for themselves because of their proximity to Oswestry and the way the law works. So, Councillor Price?
Well, it's nice to be asked, isn't it? So let's keep it going.
Yeah, but there is a serious point that I think the clerk has made. You know, there might be occasions where a market is being requested that we think could potentially damage Oswestry traders, and it would be our duty to consider protecting them. So, Councillor Owen, did you wish to speak? No. Okay, so it's been proposed that we allow this. I'll second that. All in favour? Thank you. I think that was unanimous. Oh, sorry, one abstention. Any against? No. Thank you. Item 12 is the Oswestry Deep Pave project. So we have Appendix H, a briefing note on the Oswestry Deep Pave project, but I'll bring in the clerk on this one.
Yeah, obviously I'm sure members will be keen to support this level of investment in Oswestry, up to £400,000 coming here, and environmental improvements. Officers have been working with partners almost informally for a number of months now. I think what we're asking at this point is for you to A, understand what DPAVE is about, and B, give us the permission to work with partners to deliver this, and make sure it's delivered successfully for the benefit of the town.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Sorry, I'm just looking for Appendix H. Is there... here we go. Is there... Oh, sorry, Councillor Rose.
Just move that we support it, and we're actually very lucky to get this here, I think, because we're not the most flooding town. We haven't even got a river, but there are areas of the town that's, including over Mauder Road, that have been flooding. So, you know, they're looking at that kind of thing. They're looking all over. So I think, you know, it's great.
Yeah, and, you know, so it's not only local flooding like that, but also playing our part in reducing the flooding of the Severn. So, which obviously we are a part of the wider system, aren't we? So, yeah, I think this is very well worth supporting, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it develops going forward. But I don't think there's any action to take on that, is there? No. Okay, thank you. Item 13 then, reports from the Town Clerk. The first one, A, is Town Council projects.
Fairly lengthy update, I'm afraid, Mr Mayor, on this one. I know members are, well, we're all keen to get off this evening. But I think what is pleasing is that there's progress against all the projects that have been that are on this list, with the absence of the LED street lights. So really pleased. You'll have seen today that we've launched the Empty Property Grant Scheme. That's been well received. We've already had a number of inquiries. We've been working with a pilot pilot site for a number of weeks now, just to make sure that we adapt our paperwork and processes to fit. So there's a lot of interest, and I think it's a really positive update for members. Happy to answer any questions on the paperwork provided, but I have got some additional updates. One being the cinema, and I have been contacted by an individual connected to Kinoculture, who is keen to reopen the venue and increase the number of screens, and improve access and facilities. But they are looking for support from the council, and know where, you know, you've asked us to consider the feasibility of this. But I'm wondering again, trying to delegate and share responsibility. I wonder if the policy group would like to meet with the individual prior to a formal request coming in. So that's one for you to think about. The second one is the skate park. Now, I've had some positive discussions with Shropshire Council regarding the land next to the leisure centre. There's been lots of interest in this land, and there's significant demand for it, and for improving sport and recreation facilities in the town generally. I'm assuming that OTC still wish to be part of that conversation, and if you confirm that this evening, which I think you will, happy for me to reiterate this to the relevant portfolio holder, Councillor Rob Macy. And then finally, linked to the skate park, Morrison's have been back in contact with the council they're interested in extending their lease on that parcel of land again from up to 199 or 250 years. So members are aware, and this is basically because the rents will be of such a significant amount of money, they don't think they'll be able to operate the store. But you know, that's their incentive. I will be asking you to consider this formally in September because I have to. But I have asked them to reconsider a small, passing over a small parcel of land to the town council, adjoining that site, which may enable us to develop some recreational facilities. I think members who were involved at a few years ago in the pain of the discussions will remember that. And I'm asking them to consider their increasing their financial offer as well. So some positive updates then regarding the skate park. Bit of a decision on the cinema. I feel a little bit uncomfortable carrying all the risk on this one. I would like to share the responsibility with members if that would be okay.
Okay, councillors. I'll open it up for discussion. Obviously, the wider projects list there, that's all open for comment or question. But we have sort of 3 specific areas here that the clerk would like a bit of direction on. One is the policy group to discuss and meet with the person regarding Kino culture and the future of that. The leisure centre land, which we've been looking at developing for a while, looks like that might be doable again, and the Morrison's lease. We just need to bear that in mind, really, don't we, for now. Does anyone wish to speak on any of these issues? Councillor Coburn.
I'm not on the policy group, so I'm not going to say anything about that one, but I do think that we should continue with the skate park proposal by the leisure centre. I think it's a long-standing thing that the council has supported, and we should be attempting to advance if we can.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Price.
I think we should be partially based as a stakeholder in anything that happens down there and welcome anybody else that is interested, because I think the size of the ground, the projects that can be done there for Oswestry itself, the sport opportunities, the recreational opportunities are so immense. So I think, yes, we should be a large stakeholder. Shropshire Council, I would like to think, is a large stakeholder. The college, I presume, would want to be a stakeholder. Yeah, I think wonderful opportunities. Can we bring it on?
Okay, thank you very much.
I'll just come in response to that. So, yeah, I suggest, I think that will be the way it develops in the future. I think there's such demand for the land there from sports clubs that inevitably it will be a partnership approach to it, and that's, they've been the beginning of the conversations I've had.
Okay. Great. Yep, Councillor Kerr.
Yeah, just on the cinema then, I'm a little bit news to me, I'm not aware of this, but you say an individual. Up to now, we've only really met with organisations who have existing operations across the country and can demonstrate to us they've got the contacts to get the products and they know what they're doing. I'm just questioning, I don't know who this individual is or what their background is, but I think before we proceed, we need to establish they have the sufficient experience and aptitude to actually deliver what they're talking about. Otherwise, we could waste a lot of time talking to a lot of people who've got aspirations. I can think of one in town in particular who is always very keen to impress upon us that he's the person we should speak to about cinemas. So, and if we're going to do it to one person, then why aren't we doing it to lots of other people who seem to have views? So just a bit, I don't mind it going to the policy group, but just a bit, I think before anything proceeds, we need to look at due diligence and credibility of that offer.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, and something I'm mindful of, which is why I'm recommending you have an active part in how this goes forward. There is considerable experience with this individual. They were part of the steering group at the very outset of this project, and have a background in the film industry, but there is quite an ask of the council. Potentially, they have an offer on, they have an interest in the property as well. I think it'd be worthwhile getting the answers or asking the questions with the individual in a meeting, as opposed to me trying to relay things through a council meeting just at this
Sorry.
stage. So, and obviously, you know, you've met with other operators in the past.
Is this a business? Is this an individual? Is this
One
a
moment.
company?
Sorry, because Councillor Owen did have his hand up. So if I can just bring Councillor Owen in first, and then
Obviously, I think you are a member of the policy group from memory, Duncan. So it's a matter of, can we move this discussion to the policy group where we can meet with the individual and have the discussion that you want to have yourself with him?
yeah, sure.
Well, you say anybody can then write to the clerk and he has to bring it to the policy group, and we can't, you know, have anybody.
Well-
So there has to be a credibility check before we take it in front of members.
I think-
And if the clerk's done that and is happy, and that's fine. That's all I'm seeking for. Otherwise, we allow those over to anybody can come forward.
Absolutely, it's important that happens. Given the experience and background of the individual, and the fact that we're involved in the steering group and are in discussions with the landlord and with Kinniculture, I think it has some credibility, and I think it'd be good for members to hear that firsthand. So I absolutely hear the concerns, and will obviously make sure that you know, don't just listen to anybody and everybody.
Councillor Price.
Well, I can't see any reason why it can't go straight to the policy group. There's been hundreds of projects going through this council that have just gone to the various groups, so this is another project. All we're clarifying is it a worthy cause? Is it going to work? Just put it towards a policy, but yeah, it's their job. That's what they're there for.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Councillor Owen.
Can I was going to propose that we move it to the policy group officially. So if it was a matter of, that's what I was originally going to do.
Yeah, and seconded by Councillor Price. Okay,
Can I just, it was a different item
sorry,
before we go to a vote. It's a matter of, on the LED streetlights, do we need to do anything with that? Do we need to have another motion to get the tender group involved, or is that just, it's no low priority at the moment? And
It's not a case of low priority, it's a case of managing demands. I think what I would say by the whole list of projects and the progress we're making across them, then it's just a case of where they sit in the list of priorities. We have, you know, as I mentioned before, the centre has been the biggest risk and has been taking the biggest attention. Next to that is Fluid Mansion. Again, similarly, and everything else falls in line behind that. We are endeavouring to do our very best to get to that point. And once we have acquired the centre, and there's, you know, good progress on that, and I'm hopeful that within a month or so that will be town council property, then you know, that frees up quite a lot of time.
Okay, Councillor Rose, did you want to? Oh, you having a little pre-vote. Okay, lovely. Okay, so we'll convene the policy group to discuss the Kinniculture future. Yes, we're excited about the leisure centre land going, being back up and running. And so if we just note those things and agree to the policy group meeting, all in favour? Thank you. And I think that was unanimous. Any against, any abstentions? No. Thank you. Okay, we're on the Fluid Mansion business case. So we've got a large document there. I think it's fair to say that the company have done a very thorough, detailed job and listened very carefully to the public and ourselves and the other stakeholders and partners over that period of time. And they've produced, you know, quite a decent piece of work. So, but I'll let the clerk sort of, if you wanted to say anything, yeah.
The only thing to add to that is clearly this project isn't without risk, and there's still a lot of work to go, as you've seen. But the support from Heritage Lottery Fund, having that initial expression of interest accepted, means that this is a project that they would fund. Now, the challenge for us is making sure that our applications moving forward are the best that they can be to maximise the funding. It's almost a risk. The biggest risk that we have is not doing anything. So I think there's a way forward which is ambitious and probably the least risk. Doing nothing is probably more risky.
Yeah, could well be. Does anyone wish to say anything about this, the business case that's... Councillor Kerr? Yeah. Thank you very much. All in favour? Lovely. Any against? Any abstentions? One abstention. Thank you. C then, the contract matters. C1 is HR advice and support.
I think these are just for noting.
These are just for noting, and the insurance, sticking with Zurich for 2 years, financially advantageous. Councillor Owen.
Move we note.
Move we note those. Happy to second. All in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you. So D is the 401 bus route proposal. I'll just allow Councillor Price to vacate.
John's going now, I think.
Yes. Night, John. All the best. Okay, so we have an expression of interest from the Cube to run Route 401 on Saturdays for a trial period of 3 months, but there are cost implications, and consulting Shropshire Council will be necessary as it's a commissioned route. Anyone wish to speak? Councillor Maguire.
Just to say, I think we should, is it James Wilcox, the head of the bus transport, seek his advice and guidance on the issue, which obviously, I suppose that would be part of it anyway. And because I believe that Shrewsbury trialled a supply on demand programme, can we ask how it got on, so it gives us an idea of whether it's workable before we put any money into it? It is still running.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Right, okay, so yeah, consulting, yeah, the relevant personnel at Shropshire Council. Yeah, Councillor.
Move.
Happy to move. Okay, Councillor Upton, happy to second. All in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? 2 abstentions there. Okay, thank you.
So just before we move on, we would like to look at the routes a little bit. So this is initial routes. As part of that is making sure it's picking up where people need it. There are certain places in town that are not served at all. For example, the leisure centre. So we'll see what minor adjustments that we can make to make sure it reflects what people need.
Thank you. 13E then, Orchard Street, following the notice of motion to try and improve a small area there. There's been a meeting, so...
Yeah, so members are aware of, especially those involved in the police partnership panel, that there is a initiative looking at reducing antisocial behaviour and crime in an area of Oswestry, and this particular area being one of them. We had the notice of motion. You can see the proposal there from the company. Just a few insights from me, not wanting to influence members too much, but having spoken to a couple of residents, I think it's good to know what's restricted. Residents are keen on parking. Rontec obviously not keen on parking, and there is this project in the area, and they are looking to consult with members of the public generally. So my consideration was you've got this on the table. You don't need to decide now. It'll remain on the table for a while. That you've got the opportunity to go through this process, through the public engagement, and see what comes out at the end of it before making a decision. It's not without risk, potentially expensive, and hopefully other people might come forward and say, well done, council, we'll take it from here.
Really? Is that a possibility? Councillor Maguire.
I supported this in the beginning. I do think it's a good idea. It is it's an area that's, how can I put it? It attracts litter, it attracts issues, let's put it that way. And to have something decent done there would be a positive, especially for the residents around. But it's just one or two things that do concern me on some of their, you know, like the unconditional at any time 6 months notice. You know, if we spent any money there or anything like that, you know, it's council taxpayers' money. If they was to pull it away from us at any time, then that's money wasted. I'm not saying it shouldn't happen, because I think it's a problematic area and it should be, you know, something should be done there. But I just worry about the, you know, it only takes one or two residents to complain about something that's going on there that perhaps shouldn't be going on there, and then the company turn around and say, right, we're taking it back. And that does concern me a little bit. But something does need to be done there. But I just wonder if, when it comes nearer the time, we need to look at it a bit more in depth and perhaps give our own proposals to them as well of where we think it should, you know, what should happen.
Okay, I've got Councillor Owen next.
So obviously we don't have a plan as such. We just know that we want to make it into a community green space, but nothing cost-wise, nothing beyond that. We've also got a lot of projects on at the moment. I don't think this benefits a small amount of Oswestry compared to the other projects, such as the centre, that do help a lot of people. So it's a matter of, we shouldn't get rid of this project. It's something that is important, but I think we should have it on the projects list under the deferred one, because then it's something that we've got in the future, like in the bank, to go, if it's not going the way that we want, we can then bring it back and have an idea of where we were at, so we don't have to go back to proposing a motion to start with and going back through it all again. We have it sort of paused from where we are now, and we can move it rather than just stopping it or having it floating around on the projects list for the next 6 months.
Okay, thank you. I did have Councillor Kerr next, then Councillor Radford, then Councillor Davis, and then Councillor Rose. But yes, Councillor Kerr.
Yeah, I do think we all need to remember this is one of the most deprived parts of Oswestry, and if we're going to do anything to tackle, and a lot of investments being made by the Home Office, by housing associations, by other agencies, to try to get to the root causes of the area and to improve the area, but without any green space. And we know we've had plan applications which we've commented on that there's no green space in that area for people. We will be failing residents who live in this area if we don't start to move it forward. I suggest we move it forward simply to ask, I mean, it says here that Montec would prepare a lease. I don't see there's any problem in Montec preparing a lease and seeing what that is, and then it would sit at that stage, such that if we then secure funding, because the Home, you know, I've not had the Home Office involved in any area of Oswestry before, so we've got some powerful people coming in here. We'd have the ability to say, look, if you want to tackle some of these issues and build a better future for these people, here's a lease we're ready to sign. And so we've got to that stage that if they put funding in it, we've got it. We don't, otherwise, our application looks rather weak to say, well, we've talked to Montec and we could do it. So I'd like to get to the stage where it's, Boris Johnson used to use the phrase shovel ready, didn't he? So it's shovel ready. We've got to a phase where we've got a lease, and it won't cost us anything to do that, since it's Montec who will repair the lease, it says down here. I understand that, you know, obviously residents would like parking in Montec, so that's not possible. But I think if we could look at it as just an improvement to the area, I think we can involve people like in Bloom and volunteers, so all the money doesn't have to be expenditure. I think we can start to attract local residents themselves to take care of that area. I know that some of them have barbecues there anyway, so there's an opportunity to actually build upon that and actually get that owned. And if you look around cities, pocket parks are extraordinarily popular, because they're very much seen as people's gardens from places where they haven't got gardens. And I do have to say to Paul, when I first started to go down there, they said it was you who first started to talk. It wasn't Montec then, it was Morrison's, I think, about that land, to see if it was any, and they remembered that. So, you know, people do recall that this is, you know, a sign of how the area could be improved.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Radford.
Thank you. I was just kind of slightly concerned about number 4, and despite Duncan's suggestion that volunteers would be able to kind of maintain it, the reality is that when you use volunteers, the book tends to stop with the landlord of the people that actually own the land rather than the volunteers. So I think the question is around the capacity that our current workforce have to actually maintain that as an extra piece of land on a regular basis, and specifically in terms of the heavy footfall in that area. That's a fair amount of maintenance to do, even in such a small space. So I do think we need to think about our workforce and what we're asking of them.
Thank you. Okay. Thanks, Aaron.
So there are a couple of issues to think about here, and I think this project funded by the Home Office is there. We have an offer of a lease there as well. I think Rontec would expect a plan before committing to do any incurring any legal fees. Perhaps as a way forward, obviously it needs to come out of this project. There has to be public engagement, and at that point there'll be an opportunity to see what might be possible and what the public want to see, because it may be something completely different. It's important to go through that engagement process. So in terms of trying to balance, to keep it on the table and keep the possibility, but that might be a way forward that perhaps meets everybody's needs in the chamber until such a point where there is a bit of a plan coming from other parties, and then you can decide whether it's something that you want to take forward or not.
It moved out actually, what the town clerk set out seems very sensible to me.
Okay. Thank you. I did have Councillor Davis wanting to speak. Do you still wish to speak? And
Yeah,
Councillor
just a
Rose.
quick one. A little bit on what Councillor Radford picked up on item 4. I personally don't, well, I roughly know where the area is, but I don't know it in detail. Maintaining boundary fences. I'm always nervous of that. If it's an old stone wall or something that crumbles and falls down, it can be thousands of pounds to put back. So I think we just need to be careful what is in the terms of the agreement.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Rose.
I was much going to say what Aaron said. We went to the first engagement event with the Home Office, the police, and did talk. Did a walk round around that area with the police, and obviously they're going to do this intensive engagement there, so it seems sensible to. They're here until October or something. I think they'll be working in the area, so it would be good to see what comes out of their engagement. And they were keen for something to be done there, but that will be reflected by what they feel is possible with the people. So it would be good to wait for that, and then when that's been done, liaise with them and try and get a plan together with the police. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Upton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a good idea in principle that we have this, because yeah, that area is severely lacking in amenity in public realm and somewhere for people to go. But I have to take into consideration the concerns that have been raised by councillors Owen and Radford. We've already had to put a massive town council project on the back burner after 2 years of negotiation, and now we're going to be looking at potentially starting a new project, which come the next elections it could still be in the process of negotiation. And then there's of course the workload. We don't want to put too much on our staff, who are working fantastically hard to keep the decisions of this council upheld. So I'm suggesting we review that we don't say no, but can we please look at what we've already got going ahead so far before we look at any new things like this?
Yeah, I'll obviously take those concerns on board, and actually wasn't anticipating doing much work on this, and it's a case of trying to encourage partners. See the outcome of the engagement work, the consultation, see what residents want, see what partners are suggesting as the way forward, which is happening as part of that project. If it's recommended that site should be opened up for community space, then there's something there, there's something tangible. All that's going to happen without any resource from the town council. You're in a position now to either facilitate any project or not. You can make a decision at that point. What I won't be doing is spending any more time on this specific parcel of land. Obviously, members are involved in the project as such. But yeah, absolutely hear members' concerns, and there'll be very little resource put to this piece of work from officers at this point.
Thank you, Aaron. Yeah, Councillor Kerr, you made a proposal to follow Aaron's plan as is. Is there anyone willing to second that proposal? Councillor Rose, thank you. All in favour of the clerk's the clerk's
No,
recommendation.
so I can't recommend, it's your decision.
Of Councillor Kerr's motion. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Any against? 1. Any abstentions? 3. Okay, so that's proceeding. Aaron, thank you very much. F is the Wilfred Owen Festival, as we heard from Chris Woods earlier on. What's the plan at the moment? Item K, Appendix K.
So the only one thing I would say to add into the discussion is that this money doesn't sit within our budget currently. So it would either have to come out of the grants and donations pot, and you might want to consider an application. And you know, any budget from 25-26 is obviously subject to your consideration. You do have a new initiative budget that could be utilised as well. That still hasn't been used for this year, but you've got a little bit to think about and work through, and particularly with the detail that's within that proposal.
So it's basically proposed to consider including this in the budget for next year.
No, well, no, I think Chris is asking for the 5,000 for an event in March.
Oh, right, okay, sorry, I was just
Is
reading.
how I read it, unless anybody else has written it differently.
Sorry, a few days since I read through it. And every year after that, right, okay. So, who would like to speak on this? Because I suppose we need to make a decision in principle as soon as possible. Councillor Rose?
I was just going to suggest that we agree to the first year and then see how it goes, and see before we start saying we want to give this money for a festival to go on every year. See if it's popular.
A year-by-year
etc.
basis to begin with.
Just this first year as a one-off, and then the next council can decide what they want to do. But we can also see how that event went and whether we want it to continue.
Okay, Councillor Davis?
I would second that proposal. For the time of the year, if it's in March, it could bring some good footfall into the town when the town's quiet. So it could have its benefits to bring people in. So I think it's probably a good thing.
Yeah, thank you very much. Councillor Owen?
I just want to check that obviously we are just giving 5,000 to someone. Has it been costed properly, or have they just said, oh, this is about the right amount that putting a festival on for the first year would actually cost? And would that then run over to the next year if they don't spend it all, or are we just I know that we'll probably propose to just do it for the first year. If they then don't do it the next year, does that money still get used for the next year? Despite us, should we lower the amount slightly to say try and generate some money before we just give the full amount, and sort of give a bit of an incentive there? But
Okay. Sorry, Councillor Chadwick.
Yeah, just in regards to that, Councillor Owen, I fully agree that, yes, in principle, awarding a £5,000 for 1 year, but actually, in regards to the costings and things, actually making them go through the grants process in coming forward, so that we can get an outline of actually what it is that they're going to be spending the money on, and then it creates almost a better plan going forward for for them then asking for it for continued years. And I think we're quite within our rights to say we're unable to make that decision going forward for an annual commitment, because actually this council finishes next term and it will be a new council, and it should be up to that budget and that council to make that determination.
Thank you. Councillor Maguire.
I'd just like to second what you just said then. I think that's the best way forward, and it can be monitored better in that fashion as well. So I'd just second that.
So request that they come back through with a formal request through the grants and.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think anybody's opposed to the event happening or the amount that they're requesting. But I just think it would be due diligence. I can't even say it. Thank you. To have some proper costings and it creates a better plan for them going forward when they're coming back to us year after year to say we want an annual commitment.
Okay. Councillor Kerr.
just to save it coming back here, can we delegate to the town clerk? Make a decision in principle, but subject to submission of a proper application according to the grants regime, and give the clerk permission to proceed. Otherwise, you have to come back here again, and it'll be September, and it'll be another 2 months gone by.
Well,
I don't think you can approve a grant and donation in advance, and I just recommend them fill out the form and ask it to be considered as part of all the other grants that will come in. And this is, I think, September, Sandra?
Yeah.
And have we got any in? Yes, only one already. Okay. So you know that most of that money's remaining as well. So there's sufficient budget in that pot.
so, yeah. So it's been proposed and seconded that we request that they make a formal application for a grant, which we can then consider in September, should they submit in time. All those in favour? Any against? Abstentions? No. Unanimous. Thank you very much. Where are we now? G, 13G, honorary awards. Yeah. So we're talking about the arrangements for the appointment of, as the legislation currently stands, free men and free women, as per report attached. Councillor Owen.
Throwing myself in the deep end here. So I'd first like to thank the clerk for obtaining the legal advice. That I think that was an important step, that we did receive that before making a decision, as it's clearly come back as we couldn't make that decision. I think legally we couldn't do it. I think it's wrong that we couldn't do it. So I think we need to make sure that people who don't identify with the two genders can feel included, and therefore under the current, I think we shouldn't go ahead with the current issuing of an honour, because you will be now deliberately excluding a group of people based on their gender identity, which we shouldn't be aiming to do. Therefore, I'd like to propose that the council writes a letter to NALC, I think is what was proposed, and to the MP for North Shropshire to lobby the government to try and change this law to allow a gender-neutral option, so we're not getting rid of free men and free women for the purposes of having that title still there. It can still mean something to people, but there's also a third option that gives more choice, and there should never be anything wrong with allowing people to choose which title they're given by the award.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Upton did raise his hand. Is that okay, Sam? I know you'd like to speak on this, but Councillor Upton.
I would like to second that for the reasons Councillor Owen has given.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Chadwick, I assume you would like to speak.
I mean, clearly I'm going to have something to say on this matter. I would just like to thank the advertiser for already printing that the decision had been made this evening. Even though clearly we haven't had this discussion, I thought that was immensely professional of them. Round of applause for them. Just to make a note that actually the terms free man and free woman was previously known as free person of the land under the Magna Carta. It was amended in 1972 to include freemen. The law was later changed in 2010, funnily enough, under the Equality Act, because somebody put forward a woman. So clearly it can be changed, and it was changed under the Equality Act. It's not the first time this has been discussed. In fact, in 2016, Stratford-upon-Avon raised the exact same motion regarding a more neutral term, in line with their inclusive processes that the council were adopting. And when we look back at the 2010 Equality Act, this actually does supersede the 1972 law, as we've already seen, because they already changed the 1972 Act, which protects the 9 characteristics, including gender, and non-binary people in particular are protected under the gender reassignment characteristics, entitled under this Act, amongst other things, freedom from discrimination as a member or guest of a club. I should also remind the Council that they are duty-bound under the public sector equality duty, which applies to all public authorities, including local councils, which state that they must eliminate unlawful discrimination, advance equality of opportunity between people that share protected characteristics, and foster and encourage good relations between people who share protected characteristics and those that don't. I would go on to say that actually the free man and free woman procedure constitutes indirect discrimination under the Equality Act by having a process that put trans people at an unfair disadvantage. And I will say this council has been quite vocal in how it's become more inclusive and diverse, and yet its actions seem nothing more than a tick box exercise. Policies have been reviewed and changes made to the language used, and yet it's not followed up. Complaints have been raised regarding behaviour and slurs received from fellow councillors, and yet there's no follow-up, and so it continues. And while their behaviour, and I address all of you, is disgusting, at least some of you, we know where we stand. The worst comes from those sitting, nodding in agreement, pretending to be our allies. But actually, when it matters and when action needs to be taken, you do nothing. And so actually, you know better than them, in fact, that you're worse. This council can't even be inclusive of its own councillors, needing constant reminding to leaving access available, using mics. So what hope in hell does our community have in us getting it right for them? And on that matter, you'll find that my term is here. Is done. Thank you very much.
Well, as we can see, issues of this nature do bring out very strongly held feelings and opinions, and I'm very sorry that Councillor Chadwick has felt it necessary to, I presume, resign her.
Not wanting to go into the subject, but as a process, that doesn't constitute a resignation.
Okay.
But that's a separate.
I won't finish that sentence then.
Keep. That's a separate issue, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. But Councillor Chadwick has left the meeting, so would anyone else wish to speak? I have a proposal and which has been seconded. Oh, Councillor Upton, you did have your hand up before, yeah.
Going into what you were saying about the old legislation and that, don't quote me to it, but I'm pretty sure there are several elements within our old market charters which give reference to any term beyond free man or free woman as well. Don't quote me on it because I haven't got it in front of me, but I seem to remember reading it somewhere. So, presumably, are those laws in effect as well, and where do they place that in line with the 1972 Act?
I'm not sure we can answer. But Councillor Rose.
I've read through the Local Government Act this morning. It was 5 o'clock in the morning, including all the sections and subsections relating to this. And I mean, it's a nightmare of confusion, but it does seem that they made an attempt to update the wording in 2010 because they changed everything apart from the free man, free woman thing. They changed all other references, like to free person of the land or people who've been given freedom, and it was all written like that apart from those actual words. And it's not just free. If we do write a letter, it's not just about the freeman, it's aldermen as well. They changed the aldermen and alderwomen. It's the same issue with them, which is also part of our thing. It just seems that we call some people community champions. So that's something we can do. We can actually invent any honour we like. We can decide to call people, what was the suggestion? It was honorary Oswestrian, and give them whatever rights we've given to the freemen, freewomen at the time. So we don't actually need to have this law that gives us the right to freemen and free women. Nothing's associated with that. Apart from that one thing, you can do what you like. You can allow them to herd sheep through your town, or not be arrested for drunkenness, which is some of the things that some towns have had. Or you can give them nothing at all apart from that. So it's we can just have a new honour ourselves with a neutral name, which would be far more sensible. But I did also read that the Civil Service in February this year, they've created a document of guidance, because the government is committed to try and make all its documents gender neutral, inclusive, and that they've written this for the legislative. Obviously, it takes years and years to catch up, but it's their guidance to change all the wording like this. So the government's aiming for legislative lawmakers to do this. They just haven't got around to that one yet. Yep.
Thank you. I saw Councillor Owen first. Apologies if that wasn't. Okay. Thank you. Councillor Kerr.
I was going to move an amendment, actually. So first of all, I think we need to write to Annalise Dodds, I think, who's the new Minister for Equalities and Women, to bring the matter to her attention directly, because it does need changing. But the issue is, realistically, I don't expect this will change for a decade or so. If you look at legislation, it's peppered with male terms, and they've got to change all of that. So in the order of the priorities, 3 men, 3 women are going to be very, very low. So what that would mean is there's a huge decades go by when there is no honour given to anybody in Oswestry because we've said we don't like the current system. So my amendment is A, we write to Annalise Dodds as Minister for Women's and Equalities, drawing this matter to her attention. And I think they should come from the Mayor rather than the Clerk, actually. I just think this is an issue that the Mayor ought to take the lead on rather than the Clerk can compose it. But I think the letter ought to be signed from the Mayor of the Council as the first citizen of Oswestry. I also think that we ought to then have an award system for honorary Oswestrian, and we can give the 2 things that we give are the right to come to the civic dinner. I don't know if that's a blessing or a curse, but the right to come to the civic dinner and the right to be part of a Remembrance Day. And the advice we received is very clear that in appointing an honorary freeman, you don't give those rights. They're entirely separate. You could appoint an honorary freeman and give no rights at all. So we are perfectly entitled to our own scheme and give those 2 rights, I'm not talking about sheep or anything else, to somebody called an honorary Oswestrian. And I'm asking in my amendment for the town clerk to just prepare a scheme to that effect and bring it back to us for formal approval at a future meeting so we can get the details sorted out.
Right, okay. Councillor Owen, there's been an amendment proposed to your motion that in addition to writing to Nalkand our MP, that we also write to Annalise Dodds, that it comes from the Mayor, and that we also proceed with our own new award of honorary Oswestrian. Does that amendment have a seconder? Councillor Maguire, thank you. Councillor Owen, would you like to accept the amendment?
I'm happy to accept that amendment. I would just like to say, obviously, we are technically replacing 3 man and 3 women, which I know it's a matter of if you're saying that we're not going to award this award, but we are going to award something else, does that then create a group of 3 men and 3 women and another group of, and they have interchanging rights? But obviously, I feel that for the purposes of this debate, we should just adopt this amendment and make sure that everybody can be included to be at least acknowledged for any good that they've had for the town.
Thank you. And I know you want to come in on this, Alan. Sorry.
So, thank you. So just as part of this, obviously we've had advice on the 3 men and 3 women and not mixing civic awards and legal awards that have got legal status. I would like to get a second opinion from NACO and from the NALC solicitor on this as well, just to make sure that we are within our legal powers, because from the advice we've had so far, it does suggest that we can't. So it does say that you can't make, you can't give people the freedom of Oswestry, for example. So there are, I just, given it is a sensitive issue, we are going to come back to it. I would just like to make sure that I cover that off as part of my report to you in the future.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. And Councillor Upton. Sorry, Councillor Rose.
Sorry, I forgot just what I was saying. In all this legislation, we're actually supposed to call them honorary freemen and free women. Anyway, not freemen and free women are actually something different. They're people who pass their apprenticeships in guilds in medieval times and that kind of thing. So it actually is mentioned in the same law that these are honorary freemen and freemen that we're doing. Not
right. So, yeah.
Just wording.
Yeah, abbreviation. Councillor Upton.
If this amendment goes through, can we in some way get it included that we also write to the Deputy Prime Minister, who is also the Secretary of State for Local Government?
Councillor Owen. Is there a seconder for that one?
I'll second it. I'll add it. I'll amend the motion. Basically, we'll write to I'll make a list from A to Z. But we'll write to relevant parties, basically, now to represent all local governments, the MP to represent the residents of Oswestry themselves, and then to the Minister for Equalities, because this is an equalities issue, and to the Deputy Prime Minister, because it's a local government. This is a local government issue that would have an impact on all parish councils if they did change the law. Therefore, she should be included in the debate. I've forgotten the original point before that was added, but basically, I'll happily accept that, because those 4 reasons I think are important. It's a matter of, this is a large issue that will take a long time to change, getting as many people involved as possible. I think it's also important for Oswestry that we're trying to push this. It's a matter of, we are an inclusive town. We do represent, there's a lot, like we've just had our first Pride, and I think it's important that we're trying to represent the people who've previously not been able to be declared an honorary freeman or a free woman based on their gender identity because they don't want to. So if there is another award that we have now brought into it as well, it can't replace it. It's a matter of, it's basically a community award that just reflects that they've done something and we want to honour that. It should be a completely separate award, and we just decide not to offer any more honorary freemen and honorary free women due to the gender issue, but we can still honour people for doing good for the town, and I think that's important to make sure that it's getting rid of the illegal issues. We just don't want to do the one. We do want to still honour people for doing good for the town, and therefore it's 2 motions, but we'll put it into one to get it past it.
Well said. So, with that, all in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? 1 abstention. Okay, thank you very much, councillors. Item 14 then, reports from the Finance Officer. We've got car parking, income and usage, market income and trader attendance, and sundry creditors. Any comments, questions, or do you want to say anything on that, Aaron?
Yeah, I think it is important to, and it is important to recognise that the market performance is lower than it should be, and we'd hope it to be. There is a challenge generally across the market industry with a number of traders, but I just want to reassure you that we're obviously aware of it. Sorry, I'm just looking for my notes. And we are putting more emphasis in communication and promotion. We are working with other market towns across North Shropshire to try and find a way of coordinating traders and incentivising them to visit each other's markets, so then it builds up a little bit more of a business for them. But clearly, as I talk to traders every week, they say there's footfall, but people aren't spending, so it is quite challenging out there for them. And the market is very weather dependent, especially with the products that newer traders have. So you need to keep an eye on it. It's important, and you need to, we are initiating action, but you need to make sure that we do it.
Thank you. Councillor Rose.
I just noticed in the online criticism things of the food market generally, that markets like Stroud are mentioned. Stroud is considered one of the best food markets in the country. It's been in, all the snazzy magazines and the Observer and this kind of thing as being one of the very best markets. But that market isn't run by a council anyway. It's run by a private operator who runs 4 markets in the area. They do one on a Saturday, one in Swindon, one in so they're a big thing, and the stalls were really expensive as well. But obviously they're getting the footfall because it's done that way. So we took on the food market to save it really when the previous person didn't feel that they could run it anymore. So it's like added into someone's market manager's job. So just want people to sort of reflect on that when they're comparing it. You can't all be the best market, can you? Some of you got more, and we'd love a person to come along and run that market.
Yeah, definitely. Anyone else have anything to say? Oh, yes, sorry, Councillor Maguire, I did have you down.
I just want to say I actually did pop into town myself to do a bit of shopping, And I thought it was actually quite well attended. I did see the comments online. Yes, granted, perhaps there wasn't people from the local area that were setting up stalls, if you like. But we're a diverse town. And it was absolutely fantastic to walk through town and smell all the different flavours and spices and from all the different places. Broaden to Oswestry. And it was so busy. It was fantastic to see. So whether they're local or not local, I don't think it matters. As long as the people are coming into town and they're enjoying the experience that they're getting, then what's wrong with that? I did see all the negative comments online, and I don't think they were really that appropriate because it was busy.
Yeah.
But can I also just pick up on the markets, because I have seen that it's dropped, and I just wonder, and it's just a question for Aaron really. Are we in contact with local towns and like Wrexham and well, it's a city now, but and so on and so forth, to see if there's anything going on there before we perhaps put any events on in Oswestry, like the food festival, for instance, because it might clash. And if something's going on in somewhere, a bit like what we were talking about before, if something's going on somewhere close by, we were talking about the car boot sale, then maybe it would have a knock-on effect on what's going on in Oswestry. So are we communicating with our neighbouring towns and villages and so on and so forth to make sure we're getting maximum impact in our town?
Yeah, that's a good point. And Aaron's just shown me. Do you want to come in?
Yeah, yeah. You can go on the start. No, we don't. There isn't any coordination, and nobody asks us either. So it just doesn't happen. There's not that networking. You know, I know there's some criticism of the food festival. We can do more with it. We can do more with it, and we need to hear the feedback that we've received and react. We certainly need to involve BID and just move on, and we will do. And there's an opportunity with something else a bit later to do that. What I would say is that I need to put my mic on. What I would say is that you've got a market manager who's got two parts of his job, running events and running markets, and it's quite a task. And the amount of time that we have to go elsewhere to see best practice is diminishing, and it is something I'm conscious of, and I am reviewing to make sure that we put the right resources into everything that we do. But it is, it's not easy with the amount of work that we've got on. So, just want to reassure you that we're not just letting things drift. That we are working hard, we are conscious, and we're going to take a real team approach. So, I don't know if you want to relay those figures.
Yeah, so just before I bring you in, Councillor Owen, there was 32 traders actually who have officially booked into the event, and of that, 11 were based within a 10-mile radius, and another 15 within a 20-mile radius. So that's actually 26 of the 32 were within a 20-mile radius of Oswestry. So, where do you draw the line on local? And I consider within 20 miles of a town is pretty close, but that's only an opinion. But out of the 32 traders who came, only 9 offered street food. The rest were producers, offering products for sale rather than immediate consumption. So I thought it was quite a diverse and successful event. I spoke to the traders, and they seemed, to be having a good weekend compared to last year, which was very much affected by bad weather. But they seem to think that the mood was good with the visitors who were coming. So, sorry, Councillor Owen, I'm holding. Probably saying all the things you were going to say.
So the first thing was just with the markets thing. We've obviously, with getting it from this year, just so that we could compare it for a longer period, could we get the data over the this council's thing to see whether it had, because it's obviously quite a straight line, but we don't know. There's been COVID, it's obviously gone down. Do we need to actively try and do something to get those back up to where it was pre-COVID? And I think it would be quite interesting to see that change on a graph where it's not, because obviously if you zoom in on a graph, it will look flat. If you zoom out, there's been a massive plunge. And it depends. There's been major events between now and before COVID as well. So it's a matter of just getting a better idea of data itself. And with the food festival, it's a matter of do we need to take a more intrinsic role in the events that we hold related to the market? If we are a market town, people come to the town expecting it to be good at doing market events. If people come in and think that it's not so good, maybe we should take a more hands-on role to help out our officers and have, if we've got the markets working group, to get them involved in events prior to them to try and help out so he's not just doing everything. There's an active participation of councillors as well. If we want them to be good, we should have a say in doing it rather than just going, you're doing a bad job, do better next year, and sort of doing it, us telling him how to do it better rather than actually doing it.
Interesting. Yeah, please
Yeah,
do.
so more than happy to you know, volunteers, particularly on the day, you know, that would be, that's a really good idea. So put that forward. I think the key relationship is the bid. So, you know, heard the feedback about the connection with local businesses. Now, you know, that perhaps has, the gap has widened a little bit on that over the years. John's still involved in the event actively, but, you know, one of the challenges with it is it's cost neutral. So, you know, we have a very limited budget for the event. So if you want to put more money into it, we can certainly do a lot more around it. So these are decisions that you have to make. What I'd just say, you don't have to make them now. Let's hear the feedback. Let's try and, you know, plan for next year and improve where we can. And, you know, I think we all agree it's a good event for Oswestry. Let's try and get volunteers and members involved as well as we can. And yeah, it all feels positive.
Yeah. Councillor Upton, sorry to keep you waiting.
Okay. Just a bit of positive feedback, really. I was in Shrewsbury on Saturday, and on the way home, I overheard a conversation being had by a couple of Shrewsbury folk. One saying they were off, they were going to be going to Oswestry that afternoon. One of them just said they'd come back, and they were very impressed with it. So I guess it swings and roundabouts, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can't please everyone, but you can please a few.
Exactly. Councillor Radford.
Thank you. I think there's a more strategic approach to this in terms of why do we do a food festival in the first place? Are we doing it to bring footfall into the town? Are we doing it because we've always done it? Are we doing it because we enjoy food and we want to celebrate what we've got on offer? If we're doing it for footfall, then perhaps not having it as cost neutral is the way to go and looking at our financial priorities towards it. If we're doing it because we've always done it, then is that sufficient? Is that a good use of our time and our resources as council? Are we doing it to celebrate food? And in which case, getting food businesses involved around the town would be seen as a good idea. And not necessarily those people that are always signed up to bid either, because there are other businesses that aren't under bid. So there are, I think there's a decision, and Aaron's already said it, but I do think we need to actually think about why we do it in the first place. You know, things like the Balloon Festival is a lot of effort and a lot of money, but a lot of benefit to the town. It's enormous, it's big, it's well attended, it's exciting, people look forward to it. Do we still want that from the food festival? I don't know is the honest answer, but I think we do need to work out why do we do it in the first place?
Yeah, no, I entirely agree. But we have, I mean, we've drifted really. I mean, this was not meant to be a discussion on the food festival. I understand why it was mentioned, and I'm sure Aaron's going to take on board that feedback and indeed listen to more from businesses. And the traders and certainly the market traders who it affects quite greatly. So, but getting back to the actual agenda, so those three reports from the finance officer, are we happy to adopt? I'll move that we do. All in favour? Thank you very much. Okay. And we also have a report from the operations manager, item 15. This again, is just to note updates on Atfield Theatre lease, English Walls public toilets, and the table tennis table installation at Kyglass Park.
Very quick inclusion as well is that we are looking to reduce our costs around cleaning around the toilets as well. So in September, probably going to come to with a fairly radical for this council idea taking that forward. So obviously, conscious of the financial situation, we think we can improve services. So yeah, really pleased that the teething problems with the loos have resolved themselves. It's taken a heck of a lot of hard work, And the fact that that accessible facility was closed for so long, you know, I do apologise, to you. I know it caused a bit of embarrassment. It was just a technical issue with the kit. Nothing we could do. I just promise you we were doing everything that we could.
Yeah, no, thank you for that update. And thanks for the heads up about this radical cleaning proposal. I'm going to be.
It's not that radical.
it's not going to be Jackie, is it?
But this has been recorded.
Yeah. Yeah, I was only joking. Okay, so to note that report then, all in favour? Thank you. Item 16, report from the Markets and Events Officer.
Obviously an update on various events there which went well. The Green Day, which wasn't our event, but we obviously supported. D-Day, which I think, and the picnic in the park, which I think went very well. And then a proposal to replicate that for VE Day next year. I think more or less the same. We met with the Royal British Legion this week, and they seem to be happy with that. But there's also a proposal there for Oktoberfest, a new event for the town. They're conscious of the feedback that we've received about the food festival. It's important to hear it. So, this isn't... I think there's a push from market traders. I think it's a fair point. I really do. Officers are keen to do it. What I would suggest is that we try and have a meeting with everybody who's got an interest, local pubs, on the bid to see what could be done. But obviously, be keen to hear your views. I do share some of the concerns that you express as well.
Councillor Kerr.
Bid be involved in it.
I'd like to go forward with the bid involved.
I think we need to share the organisation. They're quite good at organising things, so it's just capacity. It helped if we can get them involved. So if they're part of it, I'm happy to go forward on that basis.
Councillor Maguire.
Councillor Kerr has just said, I asked the question I was going to answer, but I think all parties that are involved in all these types of experiences should be involved. The bid should be contacting everybody. Is it Pub Watch or whatever? Is it pub something or another? Where all the pubs are all talk to each other. They all communicate, so they can be on board. All the different food shops in town. Everyone should be on board. Everyone should be not excluded. I mean, you are right, there's a lot that's going on in Oswestry at the minute, but that's a good thing. Surely it's a good thing for... we as councillors are doing our bit here by trying to grow Oswestry, whether it be the footfall into town, people spending money, whether it be our car parks improving in what's coming in, because we've seen a drop. Everything we're doing benefits the shop owners, the independent shop owners, our car parks, the council. It's all got to be positive. It can't be all negative. So I'm all for seeing all these things that are going on to make our towns thrive, and that's what we should be looking at for the future.
Yeah, no, very well said. Councillor Stackhouse.
Just to note with the Oktoberfest, I think it's a really good idea. I think a lot of pubs and restaurants in town are suffering quite a lot at the moment. I think it's a big national thing, but they are suffering. The only thing, I just hope that we do encourage more places in town. I think a lot of events are centred on the Bailey and Red Square, and everywhere else is kind of neglected. So I think if we really make a big push to make sure everywhere's included, then that'd be really positive as well. So.
Yeah, good point again. Okay, so you're happy.
So do we have a way forward that you're happy with, but it is conditional on support of the bid, both I suppose financially and from an organisational perspective, and as long as that's the case, you're happy to proceed, you'd like it to be as inclusive as possible. That's obviously dependent on others, can't make that happen, and encourage others to take part. So and perhaps it might be worth just saying review at the end to make sure it doesn't creep up as an annual event that we didn't really want. Okay.
Yeah. All happy with that? All in favour? Yeah. Fantastic. Wonderful. Well, is that it? Did we make it? Okay. Yeah, that looks like it. Okay. Thank you, everyone.